Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Let's Talk Pucks in collaboration with Spitball and Sports Podcast. Final word on hockey. You can get it when we put it out, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, also Twitter and Facebook. I'm your host, Jim Biringer, alongside John Restino of Spitball and Sports Podcast. John, we are back again. It's been a while, a little bit since free agency frenzy. The dog days of summer are here.
Yeah, they are. It's definitely the dog days. It's what you call. You got to call it that because it's like that in Major League Baseball. It's definitely like that for the NHL. Man, we're just waiting for something to happen.
Well, we got a little bit last week. Alex DeBrincat finally got traded to the Detroit Red Wings. This was a trade that has been in the works for a while now. Everybody knew where he was going. Just a matter of time before he got there. As I reported at the draft, there was a lot of chatter about that. Sens Twitter exploded. They always do. Even when I sent to Murray Pam, one of our writers at Full Press Hockey, about Travis Hamonic, they exploded. So again, Canadian Twitter fans, they love their teams, but to bring it to Detroit makes sense. They get a conditional first, they get Dominic Kubalik, and they get a prospect as well. Again, the return, if you're looking at return and you're saying, oh, Ottawa get, well, they're not what you expect them to get. That with the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade, yes, you had a nice player in Gabe Vilardi. You have a nice player in Alex Iafallo, Rasmus Kapari in a second rounder. If they was able to get a first rounder out of it, okay, maybe the deal's a little bit better. But again, the return is not what we expect it to be.
Yeah, and and you've said that a lot. You were saying that constantly about the return, and I guess the biggest thing for me, sitting back and thinking of the Atlantic and everything, is that it just was within the division like that, and it was two teams that are going to be fighting for maybe the last spot. That's always unique to me when something like that happens, because the old adage is, you wouldn't want to do that, you don't want to trade within your division, all that. So I thought that was very interesting. I always go back, and me and you're probably gonna cut my feed here if I say it again. But every time with the Brinkhead, it makes me crazy that he just couldn't stay in Ottawa, and he couldn't have tried to. You said it, make it work for another year, maybe see what goes on. But I guess it was just overwhelming, and he had to go.
Yeah, I mean, look, at some point you have to get cut ties, and he wasn't going to sign a long-term extension in Ottawa. He was open to a short-term deal, maybe 1 year, but I think that bridge had passed once we got to the draft and everything started to take off with the trade, the trade rumors and where was he going to go, if he was going to go, where he was going to go. Obviously, he forced his hand. Other teams were there. You heard the Islanders. You heard about, maybe going down Florida, maybe Carolina. There were so many other teams. But Detroit was the play, and he forced his hand there, and that's where he wanted to go. And think about it. Dubois had Montreal, but then a lot of other options open with Vegas, Dallas. But then, they circled back again with the Kings, and the Kings were there from the start with Columbus originally before that they just couldn't make it work, and they didn't really have the players at the time. Here, it was Detroit or nothing, and he signs a nice 4-year extension. The value of the contract at 7.875 is great for Steve Yzerman. He always knows how to do that well, similar to what Jesper Bratt signed with New Jersey. And to me, look, they get the player for 4 years. I personally, if I was in his shoes, and I don't know what was going on, I don't know what the situation was, but I would have tried to make it work, because it's definitely, there's a year of an adjustment period when you go to a new team, especially when you get traded and you don't have Josh Norris and you're different centers. You play with Claude Giroux. I think, he still scored 27 goals. So, you give it another year. I think this team is good. But you know what? Dominic Kubalik's going to come in and fit that role too. And if the Senators stay healthy, they're going to be a tough team.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's very, when young guys, and this is why I guess I've been trying to, you being an insider of this stuff, I guess why I kept on prodding and pushing to see what you knew, or I know you give all the info, but just curious, like it just is so, when a guy's that young, to force his way out always makes me look at, I'm not going to say nothing. he's a great player and probably and most likely a great person, whatever. But it's just always interesting, you know. There's always that feeling, we'll see what happens in Detroit. Hopefully, it all works out because something in Ottawa to me had to have been so difficult that you know what I'm saying. You had to go, and it just feels weird to me. But I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, they all do well.
Yeah, I mean, look, he came in his introductory press conference with Detroit when he was on the Zoom. He was wearing the old Pistons logos, so he's a Detroit guy. Wants to go home.
Nice.
You know, playing with Dylan. You know, they're gonna have a decent team again. Let's see. You know, you hear Steve Yzerman talk the way he talks about still being in a rebuild But this move to me tells me that they're not in a rebuild because you're bringing a guy like DeBrincat. You know, you have Dylan Larkin there. The moves that they made in the offseason, right? I mean, you know, Detroit's in that position with Ottawa and Buffalo where they have to take that next step, right? Like they have to.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. That's why the trade was it's so intriguing to me. Those three teams are all kind of married together, Buffalo, Ottawa, Detroit. So it was really it's cool. It brings more intrigue to the whole thing. They'll go back and play possible playoff implications. It's going to be good.
I mean, this team is you put together. You got Lucas Raymond there. You got Dylan Larkin. Now you got DeBrincat, JT Compher's there, Comp. You know,
yeah.
Robbie Fabry. They have some Daniel Sprong underrated signing to me in my opinion. You know, you got David Perron, and then you got Sherrod on the back end. Goss Despair. I mean, you know, Justin Hall, your boy from Toronto is there. But again, you look at the goaltending. Is Ville Husso the guy with Alex Line and James Reimer? You know, again, I think that's where they may struggle, and I think that's where Ottawa, I think, has a slight edge. Maybe even Buffalo still has a slight edge with Levi and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. But to me, I think, you know, if they could get 20, 25 goals from Dominic Kubalik, I think it's both sides win that trade because I think it's going to be what it's going to be with these returns. And that's why, you know, and we'll get to it a little bit later with the names that are still out there, but the extension played a role in it. The salary cap played a role in it. You know my feelings. The salary cap is the big winner in all this. They were completely the big winner, regardless of what team you think won or lost. It was a salary cap that determined everything that would happen this offseason, and that's why it took so long with the extension, how long it was going to be. And look, Detroit's in a good position. Ottawa's in a good position. And those three teams, you know, one of them, they have to take a step this year. They can't miss the playoffs. And to me, you know, Detroit's going all in, and now you have Ottawa going all in, and Buffalo's right there. They've improved their defense too. It's going to be a nice battle between those three teams.
Yeah, and you're going to see we're going to see some of these older teams, you know, might not be, you know, Boston, all of them. It's going to be interesting to see where they land. But you're right. Those three, you add DeBrincat into the mix now, going from team to team. It's going to be really, really good in the bottom of the Atlantic. Maybe one of them jumps up. I keep saying that. Who knows? Maybe one of them up in the top three.
You never know. I mean, Ottawa's right there. Korpisalo could give them, and if they get here's the key for me for all three teams. All three teams have to start strong, right? We've seen Buffalo start strong and then just tail dive. Ottawa and Detroit have to start better because you cannot be behind the eight ball after October. You just can't.
I am dying to see Tkachuk in the playoffs for Ottawa. That'll be fun.
I can't wait to see Brady performs in there. We know what Matthew can be like in the playoffs. We know what he can do. You get Brady in there. You get Stützle in there.
Right.
Oh, that team is really good.
Yes, and the Sabres too. I mean, they are really. I really believe out of the group, maybe it's because I'm living in the area, but there's some players that need playoff time. They got to get in there now. Darlene, there's players that have to become playoff performers, and I think maybe we don't realize it on the outside, but there's got to be pressure to make it. There has to be. They got to get in there.
I mean, what they haven't made playoffs was 07, 08. Yeah. I think 08 was the last time they made playoffs, right? Long time. So there's pressure. There's pressure on that group to definitely to definitely get in there and make the playoffs. They should be making the playoffs. They're ready to take that next step. You think a lot of people have pegged them to be that New Jersey this year that takes off and be that next team. I think Ottawa, to me, from what I watched last year, I think Ottawa's ready to go. They just got to start strong. And you never know with Detroit. It feels like the 90s. We're talking about the Devils, Buffalo, Ottawa, Detroit's again. Even though Detroit was in the West, it's nice to see different teams come around. We don't know who's going to take a step back. Again, Pittsburgh. I mean, are they really a playoff team? Again, Florida, they did some nice things. We documented on Free Agency Friendly, but are they going to take a step back? And they can't start like they did last year, or else they're not. There is no way. Look, it's an anomaly. It happens every so often. But you're going to tell me that teams are going to give up points like they did last year at the end of the season? That's what cost Vegas the year before from making the playoffs, giving up points to bad teams. Yeah. Pittsburgh lost a lot of games that they shouldn't have lost. Washington down the stretch too. Florida can't start off the way they started off last year, or else they're not making the playoffs.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And Boston's going to be interesting because what a turnover, right? When you lose Bergeron and stuff. So they're going to be interesting to see if they fall off. And maybe finally, because last year the Leafs and Tampa were set by, I think, definitely by American Thanksgiving. So,
yeah, we knew it was Toronto and Tampa. We just didn't know who was going to, and we didn't know who was going to have home ice.
Yeah, it's not good. I don't think that's good for either team really. You got to there's nothing to play for. So, but I think this year's different. Definitely different. I don't think you'll have that this year.
No, I don't think so. I don't think you're going to have that this year either. I think Tampa's going to take a step back. I think they're modern. I want to ask you this question because you and I are both hockey guys, right? And everybody asks, you throw this term around. Before we get on to our other guys, this just came to my head. When we talk about modern day dynasties, right, you have to throw in Chicago, you have to throw the LAs in, the Detroits, the Devils, like things like that. We're never going to see what we saw in the 80s where teams win 3 straight, 4 straight. To me, Tampa is a modern day dynasty, what they've done since 2015.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. In the Cap era, my God, they haven't stopped. They were either in the finals or winning the finals. So they are definitely a dynasty. John Cooper's unbelievable. And I think this year they may take a step, but I don't put it past them, even with some of the guys that they brought in to take over for Ross Colton and all these others, because every year they lose their bottom 6. They just always do, or at least 4 of the 6. And I don't know. I never put it past. And of course, Vasilevsky. You're right. Definitely. Modern day have to be. In this Cap era, how do you do it?
I mean, what they've done at the modern day dynasty, what they've done, they went to that group started together in 2015, lost to Chicago, maybe could have won. That was Vasilevsky's rookie year. Yeah, they lost in conference finals along the way. They got swept, but then they win it all. Then they go back to back. They go 3 straight finals. And they, everybody talks about what Vegas does with their conference finals, but think about it. 15, I think, what was it? 15, 17, 18, and then 2021, 20. They went to like 5 conference finals in 7 years, and they went to the Stanley Cup final 4 times. I mean, that group, what they did. Now, obviously, they've lost a lot of components. Their defense is not as good. Vasilev, this team's going to be rested because that team played a lot of hockey over a long period of time. Their body, and you know what? Yes, the Maple Leafs found ways to beat them in the first round, but Tampa was probably the better team in the first round this year.
Definitely, they were. Oh, they were. There's no doubt. I've said that, and then in turn, then on the side of the Maple Leafs, there were times they were the better team against Tampa and lost. So it's
right.
You're right, though. They were the better team. And this year's going to be interesting. No Corey Perry. I mean, I think it could be for good. There might be a decent, I don't know. John Cooper, to me, is one of the best, if not the best in the league.
Yeah, I think he's one of the best coaches in the league with Mike Sullivan. I think this team will be fine. But again, who's coming? Because Montreal's not going to be an easy out. Ottawa's not an easy out. Buffalo's not going to be an easy out. We know who the teams are. We know what points are going to be up for grabs. And you look at the other side too, like Devils aren't going away. Carolina's not going away. Rangers are there, Islanders are there. Like, there's a lot of points that you think you're going to get, you're not going to get.
Yeah, the Eastern Conference, Philadelphia is the only one. I mean, because you can't even, Columbus should be better.
Columbus should be better. Yeah, Philly's at the bottom. I know Montreal's not going to be as good as they, but they're building a nice young group that it's going to be in a position that Ottawa, Buffalo is going to be in a couple of years with the group that they're putting together, betting on guys like Kirby Dach and Alex Newhook to go along with Suzuki and Caulfield and guys like that.
No, they are. Then they're going to grab a goalie and they're going to be all right. They're going to be, I like, you like what they do. I mean, because some teams just are never willing to be bad. And it's tough in those markets to be bad. And they've done it. They've done it successfully, with a purpose, I believe. So, they're going to be good.
Well, it's Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon is that's the motto that they follow in New York before it kind of got blown up because the expectations became too high. Jeff Gordon and Kent Hughes are following that model right now where, hey, guys, we're going to be bad. We're going to put a good team out on the ice, but we're not going to be good for a little bit here.
Yeah, the Eastern Conference here, you make the point. It could be Philadelphia and Montreal, the only two that you might think, and obviously on any given night if you take them too lightly. But the rest, I mean, it's going to be tight, really tight in these. The Atlantic to me might be tighter than the Metro. I don't know. I got a feeling the Atlantic's going to be really tight this year.
So do I.
There's a bigger separation in that other side.
Well, I think to me, I mean, look, you could pencil Toronto in as maybe, Toronto, Tampa. You can maybe put question mark to Boston, but again, I think one of those other teams are going to jump up into that top three, I think, this year.
Yeah, and Florida, and on the other side of the conference, it just feels like it's New Jersey, Carolina, New York.
Right.
And I feel like it just ends there.
And then figure out who's the fourth team's going to be.
Yeah, and that's up for grabs, I guess. Pittsburgh, Washington. Who am I forgetting? The Islanders,
right? All right. So you're putting three teams for one spot. Meanwhile, the other side, we talk about Toronto. We talk, say, Tampa, but and then you could throw so many other teams into the mix.
It's going to be, and it's top, no doubt. The Atlantic is going to be very good this year, very competitive, and I'm happy as being a Leafs fan, a fan of someone in the Atlantic. I think it's a good thing that the Leafs don't already know who they're playing by Halloween. I think it's important.
That's awful for the league. That's just awful.
Yeah, and there's nothing to play for, and so yeah.
Yeah. So moving on to the rest of the offseason. Obviously, Ross Colton signed his 4-year deal, 4 times 4 with Colorado. Little expensive in my taste for a nice bottom 6 guy. I don't know. We'll see what he brings to Colorado, what kind of role he gets. We've seen, Blake Coleman do good in Calgary, but Barclay Goodrow really hasn't found his niche with the Rangers. So we'll see what Colton does. Kind of surprising, that contract, but again, they got to get to the cap floor. They got to figure out what they're doing with that LTIR money. Because Landeskog's not going to be around this year, if ever. Hopefully, he does come back. But obviously, the big names are out there, and I said it, the other day on the Rob Peterson show. Connor Hellebuck's is the number one rumor out there. Where's he going to go? If he's going to go, when he's going to go? And to me, like I said, I compare it to the Austin Matthews situation in Toronto, right? Matthews, just get the deal done. We know it's going to get done. What is it going to be for? But you don't want it lingering going to training camp. And I think that's something that the Jets don't want to have happen either. It may not get done in July or August. Maybe it gets done at the start of training camp or right before the season. But you cannot have that question lingering over Kevin Cheveldayoff and the players in the locker room, and it's a distraction. How come Connor Hellebuck didn't get traded? Why is Connor Hellebuck still here? Like, all these questions that you don't want to come up because the Jets are kind of starting fresh and new, and where does he go? Obviously New Jersey continues to be linked. John Gibson continues to be linked to New Jersey or Buffalo. These teams. But again, I think it's the extension. I think it's the salary cap. What teams' money do they have to spend? Where do they go? But you and I both agree if the Devils land Hellebuck, forget it. That's the best team in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, if they get Hellebuck in there and everything stays the way it is for them health wise, I don't know how anyone. I mean, anything can happen. I shouldn't say that, but on paper, that they shouldn't. I can't see how they lose. It would be a very difficult team in a 7 game series to beat. I just and because Timo Meyer gets that full. I mean, he comes there half seat. I can't even. Last year to me with Meyer doesn't even somewhat doesn't even count. It's weird. You come from San Jose all the way across town, all the way across the country. You've got to now you're in real games that mean something. It's a whole thing. He's going to be something. He's going to really I like him a lot. That's why when we talk Nylander, him, I I choose him. I choose Meyer. If you gave me the opportunity to take which one I want, the type of player, I go Meyer. But I just like the guy a lot. I think he's going to bring something that the Devils didn't even get a chance to really experience yet.
No, I agree with that. And don't forget they added to Foley. You bring back Holla. You have Palat there too. I mean, this team is really good. Obviously, maybe you take a step back a little bit defensively, but I like the Colin Miller pickup. You have Nemec, you have Luke Hughes, but this team's going to be fine. You build that defense. You have a good goaltender, and I think that's what that team has. Good offensively. You know what you're going to have up front. And look, we know what this team can do. Look, even Tommy Fitzgerald said it. It's like sometimes guys come in at the trade deadline, they don't really settle in. You saw that with Neil the 1 year he went to Pittsburgh, then he signed his extension. You've seen it a bunch of other times. He's going to have a good season for the Devils. I think Toffoli's going to fit in very nicely for this team as well. If they can get a goaltender, again, I think LA kind of is set with Talbot and Copley. I don't think there's too many places where Hellebuck could go. And I think that's the issue is the market isn't what, again, the expected return. What are you getting? Give up? Are you getting back? Market because of the AV that he potentially wants. But if the Devils can get him, under 9 in that 8 range, maybe under that, then okay, you're talking something now. So hopefully the Devils, if that trade does go down, they make things happen. Other than that, again, Gibson, he wants out. He doesn't want out. Yes, no. The Ducks are in a rebuild. I think he would be so much better off on a contending team. He knows we know what he can do. We saw what he could do when the Ducks were in contention all the time. He's a top-notch goaltender in this league.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. It's funny, and it's just a comparison. I'm sitting here with my Leafs hat on, and I look at your banners of the Devils, and you look at right now how the teams are built. The Leafs should be in that question. The Leafs should be asking about Hellebuck, but guess what? They can't because there's too much money up front. On the top 4, they can't even be in the discussion.
No.
So, but they should be. Like when you really think about it, that would be a team that should want to be perfect for them.
Or Gibson. Gibson. Because the cap hit isn't as bad. You have Anaheim eat half of 6 point whatever or 5 whatever he's making. You have a team eat that up. That's I think they should be in a position to do that. But again, can they make the tough decision and who's going out? Because if you're moving a player like a Tavares or a Nylander or a Mark, you're gonna have to move one of those guys if you're gonna get a Gibson or a Hellebuck.
And I was hearing about Samsonov. I guess it would have been, and I hope I don't say his name wrong, Pagnotta from.
Dave, yeah.
He was talking about what Samsonov looks like at $4 million, maybe for 2 years or something. 3. I wonder what's going to happen because obviously Murray's going to get bought out. That'll give the Leafs $4 million this year. I guess next year then it's a $2 million hit, but it gives them 4. I'm just curious what they do. This is the week too to find out. So it'll be really interesting on that note, talking about goalies, what the Leafs are doing. Because I really don't know what Brad Treliving's going to do. If this was Dubas, I almost think I could predict it. I have no idea what this guy's up to or thinking.
No, we don't. We really don't know what he's thinking. And it seems like he's being hard lined on William Nylander. Like we know what Matthews is going to look. Matthews is going to get what he's going to get. Highest paid player, it's going to come. There's no worry about it. Maybe there shouldn't even be a worry about Nylander because he either is going to get signed or he's going to walk to free agency, and he's going to get his $10 million somewhere. If he wants $10 million, the team's like, you're worth this. Neither side's going to budge right now, and that's a good thing because, as you said it, I've heard Brian Hayes finally say it, and others say it too. Kyle Dubas put this team in this position because of not being hardlined on the last set of contracts for all those guys.
Yeah, he and that's why it was shocking to me in the salary cap world. I think when you really look at it, of course they made the playoffs a lot and they had great regular seasons, but God, I hate to say it like this, but he's almost like one of the bigger failures when it comes to obviously working the cap. I mean, the Leafs shouldn't be in this spot, and they're in a horrible spot, and they still have the capabilities of winning the Atlantic. I mean, but they're in a position every year that you just can't. All right, look at. We just talked about free agents. Every free agent that came into Toronto for the past 3 years never got comfortable. They've never done anything. Then last year they went crazy and got like 5 of them, and that just didn't work. So, yeah, Dubas is definitely he's probably perfect in Pittsburgh, I guess, though, because I think the ownership runs the show there. It seems like they do. If they tell you Malkin, then it's Malkin. You know, he can't make tough decisions there. He won't have to.
Well, but he outbid himself for Tristan Jarry.
He did. Yeah. Well, I don't get it, man.
Yeah, I don't get that one, but it's like, as I said in my article, it's like fantasy hockey. Once one goalie goes, everybody starts going after goalies, and he did, and he outbid himself for a guy that I personally don't think is that great, because John Gibson would have been perfect for that team.
Jim, what do you see? Pagnotta said what he said. What do you see Samsonov at? If you were where does he fit? $4 million a year? Is that
what was his last contract?
Oh God, it was I want to say it was $1 million. It was just $1 million, I think.
I would put him at 3.5.
Yeah, 2 years.
2 years at 3.5. I think that's the plan for me. I think that's what I would do. 2 years at 3.5. If you get 4, okay. I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't care. I think 4 million's fine too. You're not breaking the bank at 4 million. But again, is Murray going to get bought out? Where are they, if that's the buyout, Samsonov gets paid, okay, that's fine. It's a good trade-off. You have Wall, Samsonov, those are your guys going in. I don't have a problem with that. But again, the Leafs, again, we said it. Defense goaltending really hasn't been their problem in the playoffs, but it would help if they had a guy like a Gibson or a Hellebuck just to, that save's going to be there. Like, it's going to be there. But sometimes you don't need a great goaltending. You just need great goaltending and a big defense in front of you, as Vegas proved. But still, Vegas also proved you still need to score goals in the playoffs. You're not winning games 1-0. This isn't the 2000 hockey anymore. This is got to have a game to win hockey games. And that's where the issue is for the Toronto Maple Leafs, is they don't score goals in the playoffs.
And it's mind numbing to think that. And but I will say this: it just feels like you need a good goalie who plays. I don't know, a good goalie who plays great or something. You know what I mean? That's what everyone wants. The good goalie that all of a sudden steps up and plays great. Then you don't really know how to pay him because you don't really know what you. I don't know. You don't really know what you got. That's why if you can, you're right. You get Hellebuck, you do all that. Now you never have to worry about that position. Whereas a team like the Leafs and I guess the Devils, if the Devils don't get Hellebuck, they'll be worried about goaltending. It'll just always be the Achilles heel.
Right, exactly, and that's the thing that this team needs. You look at other names out there, Carlson. Where's he going to go? Pittsburgh, Carolina. Again, Tony DeAngelo. We thought Tony DeAngelo, that trade was going to happen. He gets bought out. In Philly, I just don't think the owner wanted to pay $5 million on that contract. I just don't really think that's the deal. And I think that was one of the reasons he left Carolina, is because Tom Dundon didn't want to pay him. And now we'll see what kind of contract he gets if he lands up in Carolina. Carlson's out there. They're still in the mix. Brett Pesce still needs a new deal. But again, San Jose doesn't have to do anything with Carlson right now. They really don't. They really don't have to do anything right now with him. Again, is it going to work there? How much power play time are these guys going to get? Pittsburgh, who's going out? Where's he going to fit in? Yeah, yes, he makes the team better, but what's the cost? Who's going to be the third team? And then there's Tarasenko and Dumba, who have yet to be signed anywhere. Dumba's a little bit more surprising to me, I think, than Tarasenko. I think he was taking his time with all the issues with it. He was going to take a $1 million deal in New York, but that fell through, changed his agents. Now he's weighing all options. We heard potentially he could go to Ottawa once the DeBrincat trade happened. That didn't happen. I think he really wants to stay in the New York area. Does he re-sign with the Rangers? Does he re-sign after they take care of Alexis Lafreniere? Or does he go to the Islanders, Devils? I mean, again, Carolina's there, Florida potentially. Does he go to Ottawa? I don't know. But Dumba, where do you? I don't know where he lands because he's not staying in Minnesota, and a lot of again, these contending teams just don't have the salary cap space to pay a guy like that, and he may have to jump on a bad team and get traded at the deadline.
Yeah, because the Maple Leafs, obviously his name comes up all the time because he'd be perfect. Of course he would. He would fit perfectly with them. And I got to go back to something. We talked about it on Puckett on the other podcast. I don't get why Pittsburgh is even in the mix for Karlsson. I don't know what it is they don't understand about what's happening there. It's very strange that they don't get it. I don't know. Maybe they know more, and obviously they do. I'm sitting here. But I don't know. I don't know if they're really a team that should be worried about having Karlsson with them. And I don't even know what the power play does for them. I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it makes me mind numbing to me that you'd go Karlsson. You're going to trade Karlsson at the debt. What are you going to do with him?
Right. Exactly. Like, where does he fit? How does he fit? Obviously, he would improve the team. He improve that power play again. But who's going out? They're tied down with a lot of guys. You have Letang. Say you had Letang and Karlsson, but who's leaving? What young players are going? You're definitely going to have to move like a bad contract that's like Granlund or Raquel, one of those contracts if you're going to get Karlsson. But it just doesn't make sense to me. And again, I don't think he's just going to move him to move him. They're going to keep him around until they find the right package. It may not be this summer. Maybe it's not at this deadline. Maybe it is next summer when, he only has a couple years left on this deal and you can get a third team and the salary cap goes up. I don't know.
I think that might be the way it goes. You know what I mean? Because it would make more sense to wait. And no one can make a trade. So that's the problem. No. The salary cap wins, like you always say, and that might have to wait. Karlsson could fit. Look, they talk. Dubas has always liked him, from what I understand. So I just don't know. I don't see it. Pittsburgh just seems weird to me. I don't know how many players Carolina's going to get. By the way, they're in on everyone. So I mean who else would end up there? But either way.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many moving parts, but like we said, it's the dog days of the off season. But there was one topic, I think you and I will finish with this. There's one topic that I think everybody wants to talk about, and look, one of them is this. Everybody talks about growing the game and this NBA play-in whatever to see in-season tournament. And I see so many NHL guys say, "Oh yeah, it'd be great for the game." No, it wouldn't. Like, just stop right now. Because you know who's not going to be okay with it? The NHLPA. That's who's not going to be okay with it. And look, David Alter and I had a nice exchange. We've texted back and forth about it. I understand how this works. But you know what? These guys are on the ice all the time in the summer now. Before we even talk about this, we need to get the World Cup of Hockey and a best-on-best international tournament going before we even talk about this. And I don't even think the NHL or the NHLPA would go for it because, yes, I understand it's revenue. How is it going to be split? All stuff, but it diminishes your Stanley Cup playoffs. That's what it's all about. No one cares about some in-season tournament, big deal. You make whatever, you split whatever kind of money you get over through the winning team. Big deal. You know what? So what? I think the guys would rather have more time off than play in more hockey.
Yeah, I can't. I was looking as it was. I was actually watching you and Alter go back and forth almost in real time. And I can't. You know what? Please, with how the NHL, I understand, like, where they are in the the rankings in the United States, NFL, MLB, whatever. They're all ahead of them. Sometimes you just got to take what you are. And if you do what you said, like you said, and diminish the NHL playoffs are the best. And I think people know that. Even if you're an NFL fan, NBA fan, they know it's the best going. That midseason tournament, I've had enough as it is with the 3-on-3s and the shootouts, trying to make hockey compatible to people that don't even like it and never will. So I have a hard time with it. I understand revenue too. We need the revenue in the league, but my God, man, when I was reading that, I don't even like it for the NBA, to tell you the truth.
No, it's stupid for the NBA too.
I don't like it whatsoever. I don't even know why we would have these gimmicks are not working. They just aren't, because you're not, I don't know, man. If you're going to be a hockey fan, it seems like majority of the time you grew up in it, or how many people just pick it up? I don't know, but it's probably not a lot, especially in the United States. So it's just like you just go with what works. And what works is that raise the salary cap like you're supposed to and stop the gimmicks.
Right, exactly. Now, if it come in where I want 8 preseason games for Toronto, I don't want 6 preseason games for the Devils. And we don't need that either. But again, I'd rather have more preseason hockey than this, because at least it's, it's preseason hockey. Like I get it. And I understand, like doing all this stuff, but that's not growing the game. That's actually turning people away from your game, because people are going to be like, well, there's this, but when are you playing it? Where's it going to be determined? Like all this stuff, it's the concept itself just doesn't make sense, because you're diminishing your regular season and then you're diminishing your playoffs.
Yeah. And then you don't want to win that. You're going to win the mid-season, whatever you call it, and then get knocked out in the first.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah, nothing. The Leafs will win that, and then you get embarrassed. Come on, let's not do any more to cause damage.
No, like the big thing I've always been with Pierre LeBrun on this: shorten the regular season, get done by June 1st, be done like it was done, like all that stuff. But it'll never happen, because owners want their 82-game regular season revenue money, despite teams in the South and other places not having full buildings because of football and all this stuff. But to me, this mid-season tournament is just stupid. I hate the idea. I don't think it's good. If we had a World Cup of hockey, I'm okay with it, because it's the best on best international players playing up against each other.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. It took me a while to be okay with that. I'm too traditional. It took me a while to be okay with that. I was mad because the guys are going to go over there and get hurt for what? But I understand they love it. They want to do it. It's a big deal. It's a big deal to play for your country. It's a big deal. I grew to like it a lot. I really did. So yes, that's cool. The All-Star game. I mean, you could, I guess, obviously that could just, All-Star games aren't good anymore. So I almost think you could probably do away with it.
Scrap it. Like, to me,
still have All-Stars,
but you still have an All-Star game. Personally, just go back to East-West or North America versus the world, something like that. Like, just go back to what it was, it was fun. Keep things simple with the skills competition, all that stuff. Don't try these stupid gimmicks because they don't work. People don't care about this. This is what you care about. This is how you fix the All-Star weekend, the skills competition. Here's how you do it. Fastest skater, hardest shot, accuracy, that old breakaway relay thing that they used to do, where you go through the cones and all that fun stuff, and then the elimination shootout at the end. That's it. That's all you need.
Yep.
At the skills competition, because that's what I grew up watching.
Yeah, and that's where the shootout should be. The shootout's perfect for an All-Star game. That's great.
The elimination shootout is great. Like, that was fun. That you rotated the goalies. You guys got eliminated if they didn't score. It was great.
Yeah.
Boom.
I don't know. It's so bad. And we talked about this, I think, off the air one time about how bad the All-Star games are for every sport. Well, the NFL can't even have one. So
the NFL stinks. The NBA's just 3-point shooting. There's no defense. The MLB one is the only one that's closest to the game that they ever play. That's the closest one. And that's it. And the NHL one, look, 3-on-3 is just, now it's just getting stupid. So
Yeah, definitely, man. I don't like that. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I watched you and Alter going back and forth and nicely, with each other, but it was just obvious that I don't. Man, that would be terrible. I can't imagine anyone. I just can't even imagine. I'm surprised he was interested in that. I
Well,
couldn't.
I know Carlo Koliakovo mentioned something about it. He was interested in it. Like, it's
Oh
just
wow.
great. But to me, again, guy, say you do this thing, right? And I know only a couple games count towards the regular season, but what if somebody gets hurt? Like, gets hurt.
Yeah.
Star player gets hurt in this thing.
I used to think that about the Olympics or when the guys would go. I'd be going. I remember a long time ago, Curtis Joseph getting hurt in the Olympics.
Tavares got hurt in the Olympics and hurt the Islanders.
Yeah, Pat Quinn. So I mean, like, I just look. I had a hard time with outdoor games, for God's sakes. That they're gonna, when they played when Buffalo Pittsburgh, there was a horrible shootout, whatever the hell it was, and the snow was on the ice so bad you couldn't see the puck. Now, if that point makes me not make the playoffs, I'm a little bit concerned that I played this outdoors in some kind of crazy conditions. But you gotta. I mean, I gotta like get off. I can't be like the old man yelling, "Get off my lawn." So I mean, things have to go.
No,
Go
but
further.
you adapt. The game adapts. Things
Yeah.
adapt. Things change. But to me, certain things stay the same. And the Stanley Cup playoffs, you don't touch, and you don't have an in-season tournament that ruins the game. So
Absolutely.
to me, I think that's a good ending point. And we talk about it all the time. We could talk about it till we're blue in the face. But the dog days of the NHL off-season are here. Things will trickle in dribs and drabs, and if there's any major things, we'll be back here to talk with you on Let's Talk Pucks. And this was a collaboration with the Final Word on Hockey and Spitball and Sports podcast. John Restano's the host over there. I'm the host here. And the collaborations will continue. The co-hosting jobs will be back. Don't you worry. Let's Talk Pucks isn't going anywhere. All the podcasts will be here with you all the way. And then the new season will be coming up real soon. But thank you, John, for joining us. Again, this has been a collaboration, the Final Word on Hockey. Let's Talk Pucks, Spitball and Sports podcast. Get it, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Thank you again for joining today.
All right, Jim. Thanks a lot, man.